Welcome to the Average Australian Podcast.
Oh, what a fabulous volley from Tim Cahill! You will not see a better goal than that at the World Cup this summer.
Oh,
Big
great
save.
save again by
It's a
Swanson!
huge save.
Cahill! Tim Cahill has done it again!
Might drop for Fornaroli! Oh, that is simply brilliant!
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Average Australian Football Podcast. This is episode 17, and we are back with a big week of A-League Australian football. The transfer window just closed, so there's a lot of transfers, lots of ingoing and outgoings for your favourite club, and we will discuss that briefly. But I am welcomed again by Eden. Eden, welcome back. How are you?
Doing good, mate. How are you?
Look, I'll be honest, I'm not good this week. I'm starting to doubt myself. I think
Yeah.
I intentionally follow clubs that are terrible. We've got Arsenal.
Yeah.
We've got Perth Glory.
Yeah.
If you want to go away from football, there's the New Jersey Devils. They're equally as bad as the first two. And
Wow.
I think there might be something wrong with me.
Yeah, you pick the wrong teams.
I'm drawn to losers. I think that's what's going on here because
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, look, Arsenal. If a lot of people I think are drawn to Arsenal as a good team, and you can't really, they're just. It's all Wenger's fault there, I think. Once they get rid of Wenger, things might change for the Gunners, so I wouldn't despair there too much.
The depressing thing is just like how consistent it happens.
They're consistent at
It's literally Groundhog Day. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah, story of Arsenal fans' lives, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah. So, how'd you find the week of football? Anything? Do you like the Melbourne victory Sydney game? We'll obviously talk about it in more detail soon. But what do you think of the contest itself?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was as a grand final prelude, possibly. I thought it was pretty interesting. Sydney just kind of do what they do best, and that's be clinical, put away the chances, maybe ride their luck a little bit, but just so hard to beat, aren't they?
Was it your favourite game of the weekend?
Yeah, look, I thought it was because, that and once again, I thought Glory delivered in terms of the entertainment stakes. Like, I thought Glory Mariners was a cracker.
Yeah.
That was a really good game. And City Jets was actually a pretty good
It was, yeah.
game
I was expecting that to be close, yeah.
Yeah, I was probably expecting that to be a little bit maybe dull, but that was actually a really good game and good atmosphere as well. So overall, I thought it was actually a pretty good weekend.
So we spoke about my disappointments, my frustration, my personal traits of attracting losers. So we're going to go straight into yours, and this is the FFA.
My pet hate.
Your pet hate. Now, there's quite a bit to this. Basically, Stephen Lowy, David Gallup, they want to fly to Zurich to go to the FIFA and try to delay the restructure of the Australian board in terms of voting and agenda and all that. I find the whole thing ridiculous. I think it's so inclusive that they're trying to do everything they can to hold on to their power, and I think the entire thing is just a bad look for Australian football. Yeah,
look, I agreed. I think it's like you said, it's sad and it's pathetic, but it's also just very, very shady.
It is.
That they all traveling in secret to Zurich to basically grovel at FIFA's feet and beg for an extension on this deadline, which I think was due in March or something like that. I think it's just pathetic. I think it's super shady and devious from the FFA. They're trying to mask it as, I think Infantino was supposed to stop by in Australia on his way through Asia or something like that, and he never did. So they're saying, it's something we didn't get a chance to catch up with him, so we're going to fly all the way to Switzerland just to have a chat. It's nah, come on. It's pretty obvious what's going on here, and like you said, I think it's disappointing. FIFA have made the call. These changes aren't just frivolous recommendations from FIFA. These are some of the pretty damning indictments on the FFA, and things need to change. And instead of the FFA taking it on board and saying, all right, let's do something about it, they're trying to beg for more time and things like that. I think it's pathetic.
What annoys me is that this sort of problem with the FFA, this is not new. This has been going since 2010, 2009. This issue has come to a fore, but it's been here before. The thing that's different for me is that in the past there were certain clubs in the A-League that weren't on board of wanting more representation in the actual voting system. I think what's different now is that every A-League club is joined together as one voice. And I think what's interesting about this is that, like, if it doesn't happen, like, is the A-League going to try to become independent? And then you look at the independent of it. Like, the big problem with being independent is that there's no funds going into the actual national team. Like, that has to then come from, like, the federal government, from the state. And, like, it's interesting what's going to happen here because there's a power struggle going on between the A-League clubs themselves and the FFA. And I think if they break up massively, like, in a bad way, I think this is going to have a massive impact on Australian football.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think it's a crossroads.
It is, yeah.
And like you said, it's a power struggle at the moment because the FFA, like you said, it's all about money at the end of the day. And the FFA desperately need to hang on to the A-League because at the end of the day, the A-League does make the money.
It does, yeah.
But what they do is instead of feeding all of that money back into the A-League, they take that money then and use it for other things as well, including, like you said, the national team and promotion of Socceroos games and who knows what else, bribing officials at World Cup.
Just being involved in the world stage, right? Because if Australia drop off the map in an international sense, and they lose that power.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but what's happening is, and that happens across the board. See, like participation fees for like juniors that play football are some of the highest in any junior sport, and basically the FFA take that money and use that money as well to fund Socceroos and things like that as well.
Yeah.
So they need the money, but at the end of the day, the league has to be independent. That's a mandate from FIFA that the league has to be independent. Like you said, it hasn't always been that the owners have always been together on that. Now they are.
Yeah.
Tony Sage from Glory was always one that was butting heads with the FFA because, look, the FFA expect these owners to pump millions into the game. Pretty much all of the clubs are losing money hand over fist year in, year out. The FFA is not holding up their end of the bargain in terms of promoting the game, finding marquees, all this sort of stuff. So they're not doing their end. The owners are pumping millions. And then they're told, oh, no, you don't even get a say in how the leagues run or anything like that.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And now I think there is a bit of a shift because you've got the City Group in Melbourne City. They're not going to stand for it.
No, definitely not.
Sydney FC probably never really will. Glory definitely won't. Melbourne Victory have always been critics. So you're getting a bit of a movement. And there was that infamous thing where I think not too long ago, the City Group actually hosted all of the owners of the A-League clubs in Abu Dhabi for like a bit of a secret meeting and
conference.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like they're planning on how to run the league without the FFA, and it has to happen.
It does, yeah.
The A-League is not like FFA's little plaything that they can just do whatever they want with, take money from and use it whenever they need it and then dump it when they don't and mistreat it. Do you know what I mean? Like this is a professional league, so it has to stand on its own. So I don't know what they're hoping to get out of that. If FIFA have any sort of spine, they're going to stand up to FFA and tell them, no, you know, these changes need to be done. It's sad. Like, we saw, like they said, the number of votes on the committee is something like 7. That's like the lowest in the world of any football federation.
Body. Yeah.
I mean, that's being compared to like all these like African, Asian nations, South American nations. Some of them are like probably pretty dodgy and corrupt, and even they've got a fairer voting system than Australia. Like that's pathetic. I saw an article today about the W League and some of the shocking standards in the W League at the moment. One of the ladies from one of the teams was saying basically in their match, when the match was over, they couldn't change in the change rooms because the men's team had rocked up. They were in the change rooms. The women had to change out on the street.
Wow.
Like, and it was basically like, and they were saying like there's a number of these things where some of the pitches are shocking. You know, that Adelaide game that was played in the heat against Wellington, the women played even earlier, I think.
Wow, yeah, that's ridiculous.
Like, they're being mistreated as well in that W League. It's the way that W League's being run at the moment is a shambles and no one's accountable for it. Like, things need to change, and there's no accountability at the FFA at the moment. And I think the FIFA needs to kick their ass and tell them how it is.
It's going to be interesting, right? Because I think even a delay in the decision is going to have a massive fallout. I don't think it's even a case of the changes occurring, like say later in 2017, early 2018. I think if the March deadline gets moved back, at the end of this season, there's going to be something that's going to happen.
Oh, I think some of the owners are at boiling point. I mean, like I said, Sage has never been a fan, and I know City are agitating for changes. I mean, Melbourne City would love the salary cap to be scrapped.
We even saw Popovich go on the Mark Bosnich, that news show, and talk about the salary cap and how it stifles teams, growing into like a powerhouse and becoming successful. Like
it's hurting teams.
It is. And not even that, the identity of a team, which I think is even more important.
Yeah, like all these sideways switches that you see between clubs as well for no transfer and things like that. It dilutes
culture of a team.
It dilutes culture. You can't build a dynasty. You can't build a legacy. It's rare to see players that have played 5-6 seasons with a club. It hurts the league, and it's so easy for foreign clubs to poach our players.
Yeah.
Because they just have to trigger like a $300,000 transfer clause or something ridiculous like that. So there's so many changes that need to be done, and the other thing is expansion.
That's what I was going to mention, actually, because the expansion helps with the culture, helps with identity, because I was going to bring this up when we talk about round 18, the preview. Like the Melbourne Derby, this game has no shine, has no anticipation for me, and I think it's because there's so little teams in the league. I mean, this is the fourth time they've played, isn't it? This season already? I mean, at what point does the Derby mean anything if they play 4 times a year?
That's right,
The expansion is so important to, not even just, about commercially, in marketing, but in terms of making the actual game itself easier to promote and easier in terms of just the quality of the match, right?
Yeah, agreed. I think, like I said, it's diluting it when you're getting 3 derbies a year plus possibly more if you got finals and things like that. That dilutes it. The talent pool is diluted. You keep seeing the same players over and over. And it just, like you said, it's getting a bit samey, but going along with that, FFA promised, they're going to release the criteria for expansion teams. That deadline's coming up soon. We've entered February now. Apparently they were going to release that in February. So let's see what's happening there. Are they going to put their money where their mouth is and actually release some criteria? Or once again, are they just going to make it up as they go along and go where, whoever's got the most money or whoever appeals to them or whoever's mates with them or whatever. So the pressure's on there as well because they're not saying anything there. So, I mean, I really think, like you said, end of this season, there could be a mutiny on the cards because the clubs are fuming at this. They're absolutely fuming because FFA have just basically ducked out of the country in secret, haven't told anyone, haven't brought a delegation. They haven't invited any, they could have invited one owner who represents all of the clubs or something like that. They haven't invited anybody. No. It's a secret mission. It's begging FIFA for time. And what for? What do they need the time for? Have an election. If you have to have an election, have one.
Exactly.
What's so hard about that? Just do it.
Well, I mean, most of these, the people inside the FFA are going in unopposed. There's not even a proper, a system in place to...
Yeah, it's like North Korea or something.
It feels like
it's just, I mean, look, things need to change, and I think they need to come in for big criticism on this. We'll see what the outcome is. I'm curious to see how FIFA's going to take this. I really love it if they said, thanks for coming. It was good to see you, but we stand by our report, so get it done.
Yeah, exactly. That would
be the best outcome. Yeah.
Let's move on to some more positive, interesting news in terms of transfers and just general announcements. I don't know if you saw, I assume you did, that Perth Glory are going to host Chelsea. I think either July or August. This will be in the new stadium that's being built right now. It's actually looking pretty good in Perth right now. The train station's been built as well, so it's going to be a lot easier to get to for Perth locals. What do you think? I think Chelsea will go into the game as champions. So, I mean, it's a big, for the city itself and for Perth Glory and for Australian football, it's a big moment.
I think it's a big moment for Australian football that in Perth, that's AFL heartland. That's probably going to be the opening match in the new stadium. The first competitive game in the new stadium is a football game. I think that's big news, and I think Perth Glory versus Chelsea should be a sellout. I mean, Chelsea coming should be a sellout. I think you'll see a good performance from them. They're a good team, and yeah, I just think it's awesome for Perth and awesome for football in Australia and in WA.
Surprising that's their only visit in Australia. Like, they're coming just for Perth and then leaving.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, they like you said, they're actually skipping the eastern states as well. I mean, that's where some of the big internationals have been in the last couple of years, Melbourne and Sydney.
Yeah.
So
Arsenal play next year, right? In Sydney, don't they?
Yeah, and that's probably not going to be as exciting by the looks of it, because that's going to be a B team.
That's
going to be missing a lot of big players, whereas I think the Chelsea one might be...
If it happens in August, it'll be a first team, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's huge for Perth as well. And like I said, big for football, the fact that, the opening of a
stadium,
oval stadium designed for AFL, it's going to have a football game in there. I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely go just for the experience itself, even though I despise Chelsea.
Yeah.
What do you make of Adelaide's transfer? Henrique left, which I'm surprised because he did start the season well and then sort of stopped getting included into the first team and had appearances off the bench, didn't really impact. He's left. They've brought in that Papa Babacar Diawara, who is essentially a target man. He's sort of like Keogh. He had a good start to this his career and then sort of drifted off a little bit, and I guess he's hoping that he can have a sort of a Keogh impact. And if he kicks on and scores 10 goals in 10 games type of situation, Adelaide could theoretically move up the table. But what do you make of their transfers, especially Henrique leaving?
Yeah, well, with no Enrique topped up with no Guardiola now as well, and they've lost Holland. Just keeps.
Did you ever find
worse.
out who owns their Twitter account? Did they actually announce Holland yet?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. I don't know if he has been announced, but they're a shambles at the moment. It just goes from bad to worse for them. I think I guess fans would have been hoping for something better than that in terms of signings, especially with Champions League coming up. I think they're in all sorts of bother, Adelaide.
I saw Brisbane had their match last night, their qualifier.
Yeah, what was the score there?
4-0, I think.
6-0.
Was it 6-0? I know, 4-0 at half time, and then I sort of switched off, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised because I thought it could have been... I think it ended up being 6-0. Barello got 4 and Arana with a double.
Wow, okay, so they rested a lot of people then.
Yeah, look, I thought that could have been a banana peel for them because you just never know. I've seen a couple of those qualifiers go bad for Australian teams before, and you never know with a side like that comes over, are they going to be up for it or not? But, look, 6-0 for Brisbane Roar, that puts them into the Champions League now. They've got a chance.
They do.
They've got a chance in the Champions League. Out of all the Aussie teams, I think they're probably in the best position compared to Adelaide and Wanderers. So, hopefully this sets them up now and they've actually... go and do something, do some damage in the AFC. It's possible.
What do you make of the Wanderers? They signed Ryan Griffiths, which, to be honest, I'm not that excited about. I feel like he's the most short-term signing you could ever make in your life.
Look, and he pretty much came out and said, look, everybody's bagging me already on Twitter for being old and stuff. And look, Griffiths has been good over the years, but he's a journeyman. And like you said, he's 35 years old. It's just a desperation signing for the Wanderers. And look, I wrote that in my column there. I just think Popovic isn't coming under enough criticism for my liking.
I actually wrote, because I just did the introduction, I talked about how he's only just started to get criticism from Mike Bosnich. Did you catch any of that interview?
I didn't see that, but what did Bosnich say there?
He basically said that the success is the reason why, the players left. Typically, the first 18 players that they put through was intentional. They rotated based off their style of their team and what they were trying to do. Yeah. But the last few foreign players leaving is purely about salary cap and the amount of wages they want. He also said that he thinks they can still win the grand final, which I thought was interesting. Basically, very defensive. Sort of said it was sort of like the Adelaide thing a little bit. I felt like he was separating himself from the fans. I thought the actual interview itself, you should watch it if anyone hasn't, should go check it out. It's actually a pretty good interview, and if they keep doing that on that show, it's a worthy addition to Fox Fox Sports, yeah.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, for me, though, I think Popovic needs to be coming into more criticism. One, it's the results, but two, it's the recruitment and the man management. Like you said, they turned over something like 18 players again last season.
Yeah,
now,
72 since they lost the title or something crazy.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. And, he's got the rotation policy, that's one. But then, just his recruiting, why you don't have a frontline keeper going into the start of the season, why you don't have a top striker, where's the marquee players? He had a nice Spanish contingent there. They're all gone pretty much except for Dimas. And it's just kind of, like I keep saying, he just seems, a lot of players seem to either you're with him or you're against him almost. Like either you're his favourite or you're just out.
Yeah.
So some of those things have to be questioned. And for me, 3 wins now for the season. Same with the Mariners. Okay, they've picked up a few more draws, but it's got to be coming into question now, surely.
Yeah, well, it's the draws that kill you, right? Like, I mean, most teams win the league, win their division based off the draws becoming wins. If you win 10 games, lose 5, it's a lot better than 3 and 9. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
yeah,
they've got they got Phoenix this week, and then they've got Central Coast Mariners. Now, I feel like if they don't win both these games, they're not going to make the finals. Personally, like we'll talk about that later, but I just feel like they're at a point in the season. There's 10 games left. It's like do or die for them, and at the moment, I don't think they're convincing enough.
No, I agree with you. I think it is do or die. I think their season's pretty much over already. They just haven't...
It's critical, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every weekend it was like, oh, they'll get better next weekend. Oh, they've shown some glimpses. Oh, they're getting a bit better. Oh, this will be the week that they turn it around. But it's just the same old story. And, they have had a little bit of bad luck and stuff like that, but they're just not delivering. And I'm not seeing the style and the structure. And they had it last season. They really played some attractive football last season, and they were so good. And then I don't know, they lost it all. And maybe you could blame some of that on salary cap and, like you said, not being able to build a team after your success when everybody wants more money and things like that. But it just hasn't gone well for them, and I think Popovic has got to take some of the blame for that. It's just been disappointing.
Yeah, it has. What about the rest of, there's a few Australians outside of the A-League that have moved. We've got Matthew Ryan, he's gone on loan to Genk. I think he was out there previously, so he's going back to the club that he knows fairly well.
I think he was at Bruges.
Was it Bruges?
At Bruges, but he was in the Belgium league anyway, and they loved him. And he dominated that league. He was easily the best keeper in the league there. So I think that's good for him because he's obviously fallen out of favour with Valencia. And he is still the Socceroos number 1, and I think he is a top keeper. And it just shows you how volatile it can be playing in Europe, like a team like Valencia. Like he went from third choice to first choice, back to third choice.
In between 3 managers, right?
Yeah. And every time I think he was first choice, he played well. He was their best keeper for a long time there. So I think that's an important move for him. I think he'll be right at home back in the Belgian league. The other big one I think was Sainsbury to Inter, which I thought was quite a surprise.
I had a look. I actually went out and researched for on Inter Milan forums and translated a little bit. Apparently he's 4th or 5th choice.
Yeah, right.
And I looked into it, and the owners of Inter are the same ones that own the club that he was at in China.
That's the connection, isn't it?
So I think he's there just to get him off the books in terms of the China and their foreign restrictions, and I don't think he'll play much, if at all. Maybe if he impresses, he'll get a run, but I don't think he'll play.
Look, he's a good player. He's been good. I think he was at the Mariners.
Yeah.
He went to I want to say somewhere in Holland, and I think he played quite well. That's when he made his move to China. I think he was pretty decent in China. He's a good player. If he gets a chance at Inter, he might be able to make something of it. But like you said, I think that's the connection there. When people went Inter, they went, oh, what? But then when, like you said, you look into it, oh, okay, it's the same parent company. Yeah. And now China's got these foreign player rules and stuff, so they've just offloaded him. But look, he might get a chance. So there is opportunity. They're going to play a lot of games probably at Inter. He might get an opportunity, and if he can, I think he's good enough to make a fighter out of it.
Yeah, worst case, it's a fantastic experience for him because the A-League, the CRA is a fantastic league for defenders.
Yeah, and look, we've had plenty of Aussies warming the bench in Serie A before, so worst case scenario, at least...
Who was over there? There was someone, Brillante, right? He went over there, and that was a weird transfer.
Brillante was at Fiorentina, and I think he actually started quite well, but I think Željko Kaljac was warming the bench at AC Milan for about 15 years and made about $20 million sitting as their number 2 keeper. So
I'd do it.
Yeah, and I think we had another keeper. I think Jess Van Straten was like number 2 at Juventus to Buffon for about 6 years or something like that as well. And yeah, why not sit on the bench and make a ton of money? Why not?
It's even the Australian at Liverpool. Is it Brad Jones?
Yeah,
he's 20 years, only played 90 games.
Yeah. I mean that's the life of a backup keeper, isn't it? It's tough.
Must be hard. What do you make of the transfer window in general in the EPL? Like, obviously, in the earlier last few weeks, we had Oscar leave for China. We had Dimitri Payet finally go to Marseille. I think that was 25 million.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to be welcome in England anytime soon.
No.
Morgan Schneiderlin went to Everton.
Yeah.
Good signing for them. He hasn't really kicked on yet, but I mean, it's only early days for him at Everton.
Yeah.
Depay went to Lyon. They've got like a buyback clause involved in that, which is weird.
Yeah, right.
He didn't really perform at Manchester United. Anything else interest you? Like, it was actually a quiet January transfer window, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought so as well. I thought once China nipped that transfer craziness in the bud with the foreign player rule, it kind of really killed it, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
It looked like the European clubs weren't really ready to spend big. It seems like mostly, I thought Payet was, the big one there. The rest of them just sort of, I think some of the lower EPL clubs were just kind of topping up here and there. So
the interesting one is Saido Berahino. He was at West Brom and he tried to agitate a move probably like 3 years ago and didn't work out. Got himself frozen out of the club and he's only just moving now. He's been he was actually a highly rated English striker. I mean, obviously England rate their strikers highly all the time and they turn out to be duds. But Berahino, I think he scored maybe 20 goals in the league one season.
Yeah, right.
And he's just fallen off the face of the earth, and now he's at Stoke. So I'd be curious to see how he goes because it's been a long time since he was, I guess, relevant in the EPL. Yeah,
I do remember that name floating around a while ago. So yeah, it's never too late, I guess, especially for a striker.
No, it's it'd be interesting. Let's go to actually our A-League now. We spoke briefly about victory in Sydney. Is there anything else you wanted to say? Like, I thought the red card was completely fine. Had no problems with it. I found it weird that the MRP said it was denying a goal-scoring chance. Like, he was moving away from goals. So I don't feel like it was a goal-scoring chance. I just think it was reckless. But I suppose it's just the terminology.
I think it was just a bad challenge. And like you said, I remember... when I looked at it a couple more times, I thought maybe it could have been a yellow. Like you said, his feet weren't off the ground.
No, he went in 1 foot, kept it on the ground, slid very weird. Like, it just seemed really badly timed.
He just slid right through him. And at the end of the day, it was pretty crunching.
Yeah.
It was from behind or from the side, and he really cleaned him up. So I don't have a problem with the red. But it wasn't vicious, but it was just clumsy and still pretty crunching as well. So I thought a red can be justified. There wasn't a goal scoring opportunity though. I don't think that's why the red was justified, but Victory were getting back into it. I thought you look at the highlights there, Victory had plenty of chances. I think Ben Calfalay hit the crossbar. Berisha and Rojas were just kind of like there or thereabouts, but couldn't get it in. But Victory were good, and Muscat thought so as at the end of the game. He was saying that they really outplayed Sydney.
Vukovic had probably a man of the match performance, so I mean that says everything it has to say, doesn't it?
That's right. I mean, look, I thought Victory were good value, but that's Sydney for you. That's what they do. They'll deny you, they'll ride their luck a little bit, but on the counter, I mean. Ibini, that guy's a beast.
Well, it signals the difference in depth, right? Like in terms of Sydney and Victory.
And that was the difference. You look at the benches there. So Sydney had Carney, Matt Simon, Ibini, and Dimitrijevic. and Melbourne Victory had like Jai Ingham, and I can't even remember who else they had on there.
I don't know if you remember, but I said to you...
Rashid Mahazi or something like that. It was poor.
I said to you about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, and I'm like, I wonder what will happen when Carney stops scoring goals for Sydney. Like, is that depth really as strong as we think it is? And I guess, well, yes, it is.
It is, yeah. And the big one is Abini. I mean, he was a big prospect. He was another Mariners prodigy. Again, sold out. He went to Belgium as well. It didn't work out for him. I think he like snapped his leg just recently after getting there. Yeah. And so he was out for a long, long time. He's come back. The guy's a monster. Like I watched a replay of that goal recently, and you actually see the Melbourne Victory defender Barrow. He's actually like clinging onto Abini. I don't know if you see. He's wrapped himself around Abini's arm, and Abini's just like pulling him along. Like the guy's a monster.
It was like
and he
Titanic,
just
was it? You know, in the water.
yeah. He's just like, please don't
hold on, Jack.
Yeah, he was just holding on, and Abini just powered through and just slammed it home. Like he could be anything, Abini. He just needs to get fit, get game time. He could be so important for the Socceroos as well. He just reminds me of like a Balotelli.
He does,
just tall and strong and athletic, and he just could be anything. But yeah, the depth is there. That's the difference. And Sydney are clinical and they don't muck around. And yeah, they did it once again. Maybe not 100% convincing, but they're just too good at the moment.
Where do you put Danny Vukovic at the moment? Like, there's certain articles I saw this week. They say that he's actually the player of the season. I put Ninkovic at top. Nabu's the outsider. But Vukovic has been fantastic for Sydney.
He's red hot.
Do you put him in the top 5 of the league?
Possibly.
This season?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, keepers do make a difference. Arsenal are an example of that. A top line keeper can make the difference. In the sense that Arsenal have never really had a top keeper for a while, until they kind of got Czech.
He was a big influence in Perth Glory, Vukovic, back in the 2020, 2012, 2013. Yeah.
He's a good shot stopper, and keepers do make a difference. And to have a top one like that, he is having a stellar season. And, if he saves a couple of goals here and there and clinches them a few points here and there, that can be the difference. So I do rate him. I think he is having a standout season. Probably the best keeper in the league.
Yeah, I'd say so. We did speak about Newcastle Jets. I just brought up Nabu, how fantastic he was. What do you make of Melbourne City? Because I feel like they're just drifting. And I think the problem for them is they've got the Melbourne Derby this week. I think it's easy to see them losing that. I think it'll be a close game. But I think if they do lose, you've got Perth going playing Newcastle Jets. Whoever wins that game, it doesn't matter. They're one game away from Melbourne City.
Yeah, look, it just keeps going on, doesn't it? They're just flat still. Like, nothing's changing.
What's happened to Fornaroli?
Fornaroli's off the boil. Brandan... it's just, everything, it's just not getting better. Like, I'm not seeing the change.
I feel like stylistically nothing's changed. Going back to back four, they seem to be the same team.
Yeah, they've tweaked the back four, but apart from that, there's just nothing. And they, again, like you said, just flat. I don't know what's happened to Fornaroli. But credit to the Jets. I love watching the Jets at the moment. That game they were so good, and they were just everywhere. They were swarming the City players, and just the way that they countered and the way they broke, they just looked hungry. They looked hungry for the out, and some of the passes and some of the play from them was just superb. Like, they were awesome to watch. They just outshone City in every way. Hunger, desire, tenacity, everything. I don't know what's happened to City. Since they won that FFA, it's just fallen apart for them since they won the FFA Cup. I'm just not seeing them getting better.
Yeah, the frustrating thing about Melbourne City is they'll turn up for this Melbourne Victory game. You watch that; they'll be the better team on the field. I guarantee it. And then they'll go back to their inconsistent, aimless wandering around the league. Like, they seem to show up in these massive games, but I just, like, in terms of their, like, this is what I was talking about before. Like, when you don't have a tactics, when you don't have, like, a personality of the team, you will lose these games against lower oppositions because you don't have something to fall back to when your key player, aka Fornaroli, isn't pulling you out of games, isn't doing it on his own.
Well, look, that's what they've been accused of in the past, was pretty much they'll get up for the Melbourne derby and then they'll be nowhere to be seen every other week.
It's
and
true.
I thought,
yeah.
well, it looks like it is again. I thought this season was going to be different because the way they started the season, I thought it was going to be different because they were showing the fight every game and they were just, they looked tough every game and they had that resolve, but it's just wilted. Like I said, they've gone back to their old ways, and I think they will get up for the victory game, the big crowd.
Will, yeah. And to be honest, I expect City to win it.
They got a chance here because Victory are out of form all of a sudden, which is hard to believe that they're out of form. And
the interesting
and on the
thing with Victory is they play City and then Newcastle next week.
Yeah, that
could be 5 losses in a row. That's incredible, like to me.
Yeah, it's just, I think that I'm surprised that they're actually not more sour about that make-up game with Wellington, because that is some of the worst timing I've seen.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they haven't really been more salty about that, because they had to go from Wellington to Perth. Yep. That's hurt them big time. And before that run of games, they were red hot. They were closing in on Sydney and everyone thought this is it. They're going to go top and they're going to steamroll Sydney. And all of a sudden they're back to 11 points behind. And like you said, they cop a loss to City. They cop a loss here and there. All of a sudden they could be like out of the top 2 and back in that mix for the top 4. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm surprised they did it so early, the catch-up game.
Yeah.
Like, I thought they would have waited until, like, the title challenge had materialized and we've seen. Like, if they bow out to Sydney and say another 3 or 4 weeks, then do it.
Yeah. Or time it when they had, like, a Friday game and then a Sunday game or something like that and give them something.
Exactly.
Like I said, I'm surprised that Melbourne aren't more bitter about that because I'd be ranting and raving. But I hate the FFA, so...
Yeah, I guess because games happen so fast, when can they complain about it?
That's right. They haven't even had a chance to really stop and think about it yet.
So, I guess the Mariners' glory, so frustrating for me because I feel like, similar to Melbourne City, I still don't think Perth Glory have a personality. I don't know if you've read, but like there was like this insight into Kenny Lowe, how he's more about man management than he's like the tactical side. He thinks if his players are happy going to work, he calls it work, going into work and being happy, performing well, then that'll transition onto the field. I'm like, yeah, you kind of need tactics too.
Yeah. And we knew that. We knew that about Kenny Lowe.
Will drop real quick when they go 2-0 behind.
That's right. And we knew that anyway. We've always been saying that. Yeah. That's Kenny Lowe. Oh, come on, boys. Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, he's a great motivator. He's funny. He creates good banter, and I'm sure he creates good vibe on the training field. But like you said, how about some tactics, Kenny?
They're like jack of all trades. They don't do anything really well to me. They can counter fairly well. They're good on the ball, not the best. They can pressure pretty well, but they're not the best in the league at any of them. And I feel like they don't have a strategy for certain scenarios, so they are never dominate a team to me. Like they feel like it's just so frustrating to watch them because you look at their team like they're on paper and they've got one of the best attacking lineups in the league, and you just don't see it.
And like you said, when they're on song and it just flows.
Yeah, it does.
It just flows for them, and the goals just come thick and fast. But like you said, then all of a sudden they just look a shadow of their former selves, and you think, why? And like you said, they can press, but then they don't have the heart to do it consistently for a whole game.
Because it's not their strategy.
That's right.
Yeah.
And look, they haven't beaten the Mariners now. That's the 3 games that they've played against the Mariners. They can't beat the Mariners.
You see, Taggart came out and said they underestimated them. How can you underestimate a team that came back from 3 goals down?
I don't get it. Yeah.
That must just be speech. That can't be what he truly believes. Like, surely that can't be the glory mentality, like to think like Mariners are dead last, that we're just going to roll them over.
Especially, like you said, when you haven't beaten them twice already, and it doesn't even matter. There's so much on the line for the glory. It looked like they were coming back. Like we were talking them up. Everyone was talking them up, and they've just gone back to their old ways. Like just at the flick of a switch back to the bad Perth glory.
Do you have any problems with the red card penalty? Like, I thought, it's difficult to know how much this Reddy one-card suspension is going to matter against Newcastle Jets. Obviously, the Jets are fantastic in terms of an attacking sense, but like Perth Glory, it doesn't seem to matter who they've got in the back four, who their keeper is. They just consistently give up penalties. They consistently don't stop the cross from out wide.
Yeah,
and the personnel doesn't seem to matter. I think it's purely tactical, and I don't think who's out or who's in really matters.
No, I thought the pens were actually fair.
Yeah, so did
I thought they were, and Reddy's one was. But I'm still not quite clear what happened there. So I missed the start of the match, and Reddy didn't shake hands with Montgomery, but I'm not sure who snubbed who. I know Liam Reddy was briefly at the Mariners.
They just don't like each other. I'm not sure about the history either, but yeah, they didn't shake hands.
They didn't shake hands, and then Montgomery waved him off when he got the red.
Fake shook his hand as he was.
So who snubbed who in the handshake? I'm not sure.
I didn't see it, but I assume that Reddy must have snubbed him.
Already snubbed Montgomery.
Well, how else would his response make sense, right?
That's right. Yeah, I didn't see it, but I think there's some history there because I think, Reddy was briefly at the Mariners and it didn't work out, and maybe
that's
Montgomery
definitely where the tension is.
Yeah, Montgomery's been at the Mariners for a while. I'm pretty sure he was there when Reddy was there, so there must have been some tension from before. Or maybe even from a previous game this season, I'm not sure. But I thought that was good. I thought that was some good spice. And credit to the Mariners, they played well. They played really well.
They played Perth every week, they'd be champions.
That's the Glory just work other teams into form, do they?
So what was it? 7 points of their 13 is from Glory this season.
Wow. And then the Glory just thought they were going to rock up and grab all three.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, that's disappointing if that's the Glory.
Do you think Kenny Lowe has taken Perth Glory to the limit that he can? Not to suggest Kenny Lowe's not a good manager or he's not a good person, but like same with Popovic at Wanderers, is there a point where a manager has taken the team as far as he can? Like, I feel like Kenny Lowe is at that point.
I'm starting to wonder if that might be the case because he's good at. I'll give Kenny Lowe one thing: he's good at recruiting. He puts together a good side.
He seems to be excellent at keeping his marquee foreigners there.
Yeah,
he seems to be really good at that.
Yeah, look, but if you look at it on the face of things, you got to say that if they don't make the top four and if they get knocked out in the first week of the finals, then it's a wasted season.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a wasted season because they assembled a top-notch squad. And so I'll give Kenny Lowe credit for that. After the salary cap drama and all that sort of stuff, he's brought Glory back again to being, pretty competitive. Like, they're not languishing at the bottom. The frustration is now more that they could be doing better, not the fact that they're last and getting smashed and things like that, but it's just more inconsistency and the fact that they aren't living up to expectations. So I'll give him credit there, but it's a waste. Like, they should be top 2 or 3. And the fact that they're not, like Castro, surely this is his last season.
Do you think it's a last season for Keogh too? Like, I feel like Perth Glory, maybe it's not this season, maybe it's next, but I think their team's going to look completely different in a couple of years.
I think it will, yeah. I mean, look,
we've got Risdon, obviously.
Risdon's gone. I can't see Castro playing another season.
No.
And like you said,
Reece Williams, obviously.
Yeah, Reece Williams will be gone.
He did another tweet, by the way.
Did he?
He liked someone saying that, are you looking forward to going to Sydney FC or something? Or you wanting to join Sydney FC? And he liked the tweet. Like, from a fan.
So he's just going to peel oranges at the youth league until the end of the season, and then he's going to go to Sydney anyway.
See, I'd love to know if that's the player just not being professional, if that's a Kenny Lowe, conflict between him and the player, because if Kenny Lowe's had a part in that happening, then, fair enough. But if that's just Reece Williams, it's really unlucky for Kenny Lowe because he was an important figure for their long-term success in terms of, the defending.
Look, I mean, I don't know what's happening, but I reckon it's more Williams because I feel like they tried to bring him back in. They named him in the squad, and obviously they're trying to get something out of him, some sort of attitude or enthusiasm that they're not seeing.
He's coming across jilted lover. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, but what? Look, maybe that stems from some ill treatment in those first couple of weeks when he was poor. But he was probably I mean, look, maybe he was underdone. And they threw him in straight away, but he was bad in those early games, and maybe he felt like he was victimized for that. I don't know, but yeah, like I said, he's not going to be seen again in a Perth shirt.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Risdon's gone. I reckon Castro's gone, which is a shame because you're not going to find another Castro very easily at all.
But maybe they need to change and not have that number 10. Maybe they need to play the 3 midfield and like just change the whole system because it doesn't seem to be working as good as Castro is.
Well, and look, I'm not seeing. Yeah, that's the thing. Is Kenny Lowe the man to do that? I don't know.
So. Yeah, that's why I asked if it's his time. Like, has he done enough? Yeah,
it could be. And you make a good point. Like Keogh, what's going on there? Like he's still relatively young, but he's gone off the boil big time in the second half of this season. Is his head elsewhere? Is he going to look for a transfer again? I mean, he left Perth Glory once already. He only came back because it didn't work out for him in Thailand. But is he going to try and make another move again? He's still probably got a few years left in him, so
it's possible.
It's like you said, it could be a different team, and maybe someone else needs to come in. Look, Sage puts up a lot of money for Glory, and he doesn't tolerate failure. And this season they've had everything. There's been no drama. There's been no controversy as far as I'm aware, apart from Rhys Williams. So, it's compared to drama-filled seasons that the Glory have had in the past. It's been pretty smooth for them. So the fact that they're not getting the results, Kenny Lowe's got to cop a lot of that, I reckon.
Yeah, I think there's a few managers, a la Popovic. We'll talk about the Wanderers game right now. There's just it feels like a few futures of managers in question. Like we talk about a more Lowe, Popovic. There's 3 big clubs with managers that could leave at the end of the season.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, and more heat should be on them, I think.
Yeah. What do you think of Popovic's Wanderers this week? They played Brisbane, albeit like I don't know if you saw about like how Popovic was to blame because he threw the ball back at him like in the last moments of the game instead of letting the ball run out into the bench. He like actually gave it back to the Brisbane player who threw it in. Wanderers were out of position and they scored. Janjetovic held obviously poor save, should have saved it, went through his hands. Brett Holman winner. I thought Brisbane didn't really deserve to win the game, but I mean, Wanderers are just, this happens all the time.
Hang on, is it Wanderers Brisbane or is it Wanderers? No, the Wanderers are playing Wellington.
No, I'm talking about the game last week.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, yeah. Look, I mean, the one, yeah.
Did you see that? Like they sort of said that Popovic was to blame because he gave the ball back to the.
Yeah, well, that they need to I mean, I don't think that's going to be the thing that nails the game for you, and if it is, I mean that's pretty poor. But
because we saw McLaren start,
look, that's the difference. Wanderers just don't have a striker. They don't have a hitman. I mean, they got Santalab, but he's great on the bench.
He's just like feel Enrique, isn't he? He doesn't seem to have the consistency to start.
No, but when he comes off the bench, he's always red hot. Yeah. So I just think Wanderers have just. It's too late for them. Like if Bozza reckons they're going to still make the grand final or make the finals, I think that's a huge call.
Bosnich didn't say it. Popovic said it on the show.
Oh, Popovic. Well, look, I mean, he's got to keep the bluff going, but ACL starting soon as well. Like they've been super disappointing, the Wanderers. And look, they've had a few changes. They're not playing at home this season or next season, really. But they got to cop a lot of criticism, I think, for their recruitment and man management. So, disappointing season for the Wanderers.
What do you make of Brisbane? They're sort of like a bit similar
to... They bounced back.
Yeah, they bounced back, but similar to Melbourne City, right? They're like drifting a little bit.
I think, look, Brisbane, they had that little run there, 3 losses in a row, I think, but they've turned it around. As long as McLaren keeps firing...
He hasn't though, hasn't he? Like that's the thing. I just want to see him back to scoring because I feel like that's the big question mark over them at the moment.
That is, I mean, look, they've also got Holman back, which is good.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, his goal against the Wanderers, it wasn't like a cracker. It was probably half goalkeeping error, half good shot, but
it's signs of a good player.
It's signs of a good player, and it just gives him another option going forward. I mean, it's interesting after this AFC Champions League qualifier there that Borello's got some goals and Arana's got some goals because I think that'll be good for their confidence.
Yeah, well, that's off the back of him scoring in the game, right? He opened the scoring,
Yeah, and look, I mean, Borello, I think either last season, I'm pretty sure it was last season, Borello and McLaren both had good seasons and they were a duo.
Yeah.
And Borello, I think, has dropped off a lot this season, so they need him to fire, so that'll be good for their confidence. I still think Brisbane have got the quality. They've got the quality across the park, and they're fairly disciplined. I just don't know if they've got that X factor.
The killer instinct to
Yeah. To hurt a Sydney or a Victory, I don't think they've got what it takes.
No. They don't seem to put away teams at the moment. Like, there's no 4-0 Brisbane victories or anything. Yeah.
And like you said, an over-reliance on McLaren, and if he's not on song, well, they're in a bit of trouble. So I still think they're one of the better teams in this league this season, but that's more an indictment on the quality in the league rather than bigging up the Raw.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything you got to say about the last game? Obviously, Adelaide United draw. I feel like the problem with Wellington is they had those 2 great games. This was in the 8-day period. They played the 3 games, beat Victory, which is impressive. I think they beat, was it the Mariners? And then they lost to, who did they lose to? Brisbane, 1-0. Yeah. And then now they've drawn it. So they've dropped 2 games. You see 6 points there. They'd be above Glory, above Jets. So, I mean, it's difficult to know where Wellington are right now because they've had opportunities to get into the top 6 and they've squandered them. And now they're playing the Wanderers and they're playing Sydney FC. So, I mean, they've got to beat the Wanderers this week.
Yeah, I mean, and look, the thing about that game, Wellington-Adelaide, it's hard to judge because it was just played in stifling conditions.
I find that, it's so unprofessional.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think both teams asked to have the game moved to a later time. FFA wouldn't accommodate it. Apparently they have some sort of test that says it's safe to play. And then they also made the call to bring in a second drinks break. But I just thought, like you said, it just hurts the quality of the game. And you can't really judge that game at the end of the day because, there was gaps the size of the Grand Canyon by the end of that match. Players just weren't moving. It was
half the ground was walking, literally walking.
Yeah, and you can't blame the players for that. They got to look after their health and well-being there, especially for the Wellington players coming from what's still cold Wellington.
Yeah.
So you can't judge that game too much, but
the thing is, it was hugely important to Wellington.
Yeah. Well, and look, I mean, again, they're another team like that is just comes and goes for them. They just can't get a run together. No. I don't think they're as, to me now, I don't think they're as good as Glory or the Jets.
Do you put them better than Wanderers?
I do.
Yeah.
But
barely.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, barely, just because I think they've got better attacking options. And if they can get it together, then they've got the opportunity there to score a lot of goals through Krishna, Bonavazia and the like. But Barbarouses has been a massive flop for them, I think, this season, considering how much they paid for him. Finkler's been hardly cited.
Yeah, he ever since they got the new manager in, I guess the replacement, the intern, he's lost his position on the field. He's coming off the bench a lot lately.
Yeah, Finkler I think is their marquee.
Well, I mean, he was top of the league in chance created in the first 6-7 rounds of the season, and it's just not gone well for him in the second half. As you said, Barbarouses has done nothing.
Barbarouses has done nothing, and he was red hot at Victory last season, and Finkler was quite good as well. Finkler's one of those players, I think he drifts in and out of games, but he can do some real clutch moments, but he's been flat. Barbarouses has been flat. McGlinchey, I think they haven't got enough out of as well in Wellington. Bonavazia has disappointed this season. He was a revelation last season. He hasn't kicked on. So it's really been all about Krishna, who's been awesome. I think Krishna's been brilliant this season.
Fantastic.
He deserves to move to a bigger club and really show what he can do. But I just think Wellington, they're just going to keep having this up and down for the rest of the season. And whether they scrape into the 6, it'll be barely. But I can't see them doing it now. I think Jets and Glory are both better than them.
Yeah, I think they'll just miss out. Perth Glory will probably just pip 6, I think, at the end of the season. I've looked at the fixtures briefly, and Perth Glory fixtures are okay. So, I mean, at home, if they win their games, I think they'll just miss out Wellington, which it's a shame, but they're just not doing enough at the moment.
Yeah, they're not doing enough, and they're not doing enough for the league either,
No.
The finals, even if they make the finals, would they get a big crowd there? I don't think so.
Did you see there was an image about the average attendance of so far?
Yeah.
In the A-League, Phoenix were dead last. Actually, Glory were 7th, 8th. They're pretty low.
I thought Glory would have been high because it seems like the Glory crowds have been picking up. I think that last game against Victory, they had nearly 12,000, I thought. The crowds are there for the Glory. They're a bit sort of fair weather fans in Perth. If the Glory get on a roll, the fans will come out. When it starts to go bad, they disappear a little bit. But I think huge game. I think probably if we look at the fixtures coming up, obviously you've got the derby on Saturday
let's preview
night.
that. Do you want to start with that? The derby?
Yeah.
Like we've said, it's kind of lost a bit of its sheen, I guess, just because of the amount of times it's been played. In terms of the actual game itself, hugely important. I think Victory, they just need to stop this bleeding that's going on for City. They lose this and they're in this dogfight. I said before, I think Melbourne City will probably win this game, and I don't know why, but they just show up for these games, and then the next week they're going to be poor. Victory, I don't know, they're just defensively in the midfield, they're not stopping enough of the creative players. Like you saw Sydney tear them apart, like Ninkovic destroyed the Melbourne Victory midfield. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
I'm going to tip Victory, actually.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think City will get up for this, and you will see a better City performance, but I don't think they've shown enough over the last few weeks to be able to just turn up and beat Victory. I think Victory Victory is still good. They've lost a lot of ground in the last few weeks, but I think that's been a combination of obviously the fixtures, and then coming out of those fixtures, then they got to play Sydney FC. I think now that they're back into just that weekly swing of things, I think you're going to see a good Victory performance here. City just always leave themselves vulnerable at the back. If there's anyone that's going to get in behind, it's going to be guys like Rojas and Ben Calfalar as well. You've got Berisha there. I think they're going to be too strong. I'm hoping for a big performance from City so that we can see a good game. But I think Victory are going to get over them on this one. That's going to be bad for City. It's probably not going to do much for Victory because you'd think Sydney will probably get at least a point out of their match against the Raw. So our Victory's not going to be enough for Melbourne Victory, but I think they will get over City in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to tip City. I'm curious though, do you think if Melbourne Victory do win, do you see Melbourne City slipping out of the top four?
Not out of the top four, maybe, but I don't know. It's hard to say. Look, yeah. Glory. That's the other big game this weekend is Glory Jets.
It's a huge game.
That's a 6-pointer there.
Yeah.
If that's a draw, then City can afford to lose. I guess you could say. If the Jets perhaps win, or even the Glory for that matter. And City lose, then they could be in a bit of trouble. If the Glory win, City lose, it's down to 2 points.
That's why it's a big week, right? Because 3rd, 4th, and 5th or 6th will lose this week, potentially.
Potentially, yeah.
So there's room for a Perth Glory or Newcastle Jets to make huge ground on the teams above them.
There is, yeah. And look, and even Brisbane-Sydney, I think it's going to be a huge game as well because Brisbane are pretty strong at home.
Yeah, predict that one. What do you think? Was it?
Look, I'm going to tip draw.
Yeah. Just
because I don't think Sydney are going to go out there and trying to kill themselves to beat the Raw. They don't have to.
Are you ready for this? Brisbane are going to win.
You reckon?
Yep. They're going to win 2-1. I don't know. I just feel like this is the week McLaren's going to say F you to everyone. And
just light it up.
He's going to score 2 first-half goals.
So the Invincibles run for Sydney FC is over?
It's done.
Wow.
And I think it's going to mean absolutely nothing in terms of the title. I think even if Victory win, it won't make a difference.
No, I don't think it will. I can see it happening. Like, Brisbane are a good side, and on their day, they probably... I just go back to the last Sydney Raw game. Sydney just shut them down.
They did.
Shut them out of the game.
That's the game I said, that was the game that I realised the difference in quality between, Sydney and the top 4 teams, because Brisbane were pretty good. But they were not. Yeah, they were not.
I thought Raw were decent. Raw were decent. Sydney just didn't give them a chance. And that's why I see this one going the same way. I think Sydney are just, they don't have to do anything crazy. They can sit back. They can absorb pressure. They can look to pinch one. Maybe they'll ride their luck a little bit, but I think they'll get a point out of it. I think Brisbane will push them.
Yeah, I think the Asian Cup qualifier is actually going to help Brisbane because I think it's given their bench some momentum, some form, And I wouldn't be surprised if they play 2 strikers against Sydney FC, to be honest.
Stick Barella, maybe Barella.
Yeah,
and
I wouldn't be
McLaren
surprised.
up
I think there's going to be a bit of a switch in their formation, a switch in their first 11. And I think they'll surprise Sydney in the first half. They've got to take their chances. If they don't, they'll lose because Sydney can score 2 in a minute, two minutes. So, yeah, Brisbane, if they take the chances in the first half, I think they'll win this game. But, Sydney FC are an absolutely amazing team.
Yeah, I still think Sydney will do enough to get a draw and keep that unbeaten run going. But if anybody is going to beat them, the Raw could do it. But I don't think so.
So you've got Sydney winning against Brisbane. You've got victory against City. What about Perth Glory and Newcastle Jets?
This is huge.
This
one's tough to call. Because, again...
I don't think it is.
Yeah. So
I think if
against the Glory,
I think Perth Glory will win, and I think if it was a Newcastle, I think Newcastle would kill them. I think Perth Glory are so neurotic that they're going to win this home game, and then next week they play Adelaide United, and I think they're going to lose,
and they'll throw it away.
Yep. I think Perth Glory at home, they just because in front of their fans, I think they're afforded a bit more time on the ball, and I expect Kieran Castro to score, and I think Newcastle will bounce back better than Glory will next week when they play Adelaide. So I don't think it's going to change like where the teams finish in terms of 5th and 6th. I think Newcastle will finish above Perth Glory, but I expect Glory to win this week.
Yeah, and like you said, Perth Glory at home, Saturday night, should be a bumper home crowd.
It's meant to be fairly warm, I think.
Yeah, and they do play well at home. And like you said, when the big guns fire, they look slick.
Yeah,
you got to give it to them. And maybe that's the question mark over the Jets is, are they good enough to go to Perth and get all 3 points? Probably not.
They haven't travelled that well.
No.
Yeah.
But look, don't discount Naboo going there and lighting it up. But like you said, this one, both teams have been a little bit up and down. Perth Glory certainly have.
Yeah, definitely.
But you're right. I might go with you there. Perth Glory for the win.
It just depends whether Reddy's absence makes a big difference. It's hard to tell. Like I said, that it doesn't seem to matter. Their personnel, they always have the same problems. But we'll have to see like what sort of influence that has on the back four because the communication between the keeper and defenders is always hugely important.
I just think it's going to be whoever scores the most goals in this one in the sense that it could be a bit of a shootout.
It sounds obvious, right? But I think it will be a shootout. I definitely think it will. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else is there? A Saturday game. Yeah, Wellington. That's actually the first game. Wellington versus the Wanderers. It's over in New Zealand. It's actually a different ground. I was checking.
They're taking it around. They might.
The actual the Central Coast game is in Canberra.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah, Central Coast, yeah. So Central Coast have done
Stadium?
a deal, I think, to play a couple of games in Canberra. And I know Wellington take a few games around New Zealand as well, so they might be in...
let me have a quick check here. I've wrote this down. Wellington, they play at Yarrow Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Well, that could be interesting. Who knows what the conditions there will be like? It could be,
monsoonal.
It could be snowing up there, so... I'm gonna look. This one's tough. Wellington Wanderers. I might give Wellington the points on this one.
Yeah.
Central Coast. Yeah, Mariners Adelaide. I want to see Mariners with another win, back-to-back wins. That would be great.
Yeah, I think Mariners will do Adelaide over, and I think Wellington should be good enough to beat the Wanderers. And I think whoever wins out of Wellington and Wanderers, they'll become the outside for the top 6. I think whoever loses is done.
That's the challenge.
Yeah, I think whoever loses is done.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything else, Australia? A-League? FFA? Do you want to make any last comments before we...
No. Well, I think we've said our piece for that.
Okay, well, let me get angry about this then. We'll talk about EPL, and I'm going to go straight into Arsenal. And I am furious because I stayed up. It was 3:45 in the morning, and I'm like, I had bad feelings like about 2 o'clock. And I'm like, you know what? Arsenal are going to choke this because I can see Liverpool and Chelsea having a draw.
Yep.
And I thought this is the type of game where Arsenal have a chance to close the gap and they just throw it away. And wouldn't you know it, 2 goals in the first half and I just wanted to throw my computer against the wall. Like honestly, it's so frustrating.
This is the Arsenal story, isn't it? Like
it's not even just that. Like Spurs dropped points to Sunderland.
Yeah.
Like
this was their chance to close the gap.
It was.
If ever so slightly.
We talk about Kenny Lowe, Arsene Wenger. He needs to go. I like the guy, I really do, but he needs to leave.
But it seems like Watford really took the game to Arsenal in this one.
They were very good at pressing,
Yeah.
But, like, the disappointing thing for me is, like, I don't think Watford even had to play well to beat Arsenal. I think that's the concern because, like,
it was just a capitulation from the Gunners.
I reckon we could find 9 people and we could press the Arsenal football team. Like, we just run at them every time they get the ball, and I think we'd do fairly well.
Yeah, well, you're cramping their space. They like to play stylish football. I mean, don't get in their face. Give them a bit of time and space on the ball.
But it's like the Kenny Lowe thing. Like, where's the tactics?
Yeah.
Like, at some point, like I thought Mesut Ozil was poor. Olivier Giroud needs to stop starting for Arsenal.
Is he back on the outer in your books?
He's a good bench player, but, like, he's got to stop starting. Like, you play a target man, and it obviously changes how you build up, right? Like, in the build-up play, like, it does change how you move the ball.
He had a good run there for a while, though, didn't he? When he sort of came back, he was red hot for a period.
But the question is, like, is he rescuing us in a situation that he put Arsenal in?
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? Like, if he's killing the attacking threat, then, like, and he rescues it, is it still his good performance, or is it like he needs to get that goal to bail the team out?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And what's happening with Welbeck?
Yeah, he just came back. He did well against Southampton in the FA Cup, but they didn't want to rush him back because he's been out for, I'd say, 13 months or something. So
I think it's a big miss for Arsenal.
He is, yeah. He's back now. He just needs to find fitness and not get injured. I don't know if you saw, but Ramsey got a groin injury. They've only got Coughlin in midfield now, like the one player. So, it's all falling apart. With Liverpool, did you see any of the highlights? Like, I thought they played pretty well. Mignolet made a huge mistake, but then pulled off that fantastic penalty save.
Yeah.
I think the results over the weekend, I think Chelsea are pretty much in the driver's seat. I don't see anyone catching them.
Yeah, I think a draw was sufficient for them. They had no probably motivation to go any harder than that, especially, like you said, after Arsenal dropped points. And Tottenham got the draw as well. Like, Chelsea are the team to beat. They're in the driver's seat. It's theirs to lose. I can't see any of the teams catching them. I mean, Liverpool will give it a go. Out of the teams below them, I think Liverpool will give it a go because they will go helter-skelter. And, they have a chance to maybe get closer somehow, but it's all about Chelsea now. It's theirs to lose, especially with Arsenal capitulating again.
Any of the games this morning interest you? Obviously, West Ham Man City is a big one. It's at 3:45 again, and I'm not staying up for this time.
Nah, yeah, that's. I mean, look, we've talked about West Ham. They've been all right recently.
Carroll's been back and firing.
And the Payet drama's really kind of solidified them.
They signed Snodgrass from Hull. He's like a winger, sort of like Payet, but not as good at set pieces, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. He's obviously a big downgrade to me for Payet, but
of course. But look, I mean, I think there's a bit of heat on City, and especially now that they know the results that have happened the weekend with Chelsea and Liverpool and Arsenal and Tottenham. The fact, if they pick up a win, they kind of bunch themselves up with the rest of the teams above them there, so they kind of bring themselves into the mix ever so slightly. So I think there's a bit of heat on them, especially with some poor results recently, putting the heat back on Pep as well. I think it's a big game for City. So I think that's going to be an interesting one.
What makes it interesting is that because before we do the next podcast, it'll be 2 rounds. It'll be this round midweek, and then on the Sunday and Saturday of 4th and 5th of Feb, we got Arsenal playing Chelsea. This similar to the Melbourne victory Sydney, I feel like this has lost any importance.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, if had Arsenal beaten Watford, gone up to 50 points...
They would only been 6 points away.
6 points away, and then they play Chelsea. They beat Chelsea. All of a sudden, they're 3 points...
This is where it's mentality and tactics. Yeah, there's no excuse for me. Like, I'm sick of... I said this on Twitter on my Arsenal account. I said, like, I really feel sorry for people that write about Arsenal week in, week out, do podcasts like we do, but focus on Arsenal. Like, it must be so depressing having to talk about it.
Like, there's no point analysing them, is there?
What can you analyse? It's Groundhog Day. It happens.
That's right.
There's no way to, like, intelligently talk about and break down, like, a performance when you see it, like, in the last 10 years, like, 18 times.
There's nothing there, and like you said, you could probably just close your eyes at the start of the season, wake up at the end of the season, and there's Arsenal 4th or 3rd or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, they really missed the golden opportunity here.
And that's the difference between being there or thereabouts and being a genuine contender. Beat Watford, have a blockbuster against Chelsea, and possibly knock them off to go 3 points down and give yourselves a real shot at the title. And instead, like you said, it's back down to 9 points. I mean, look, if they win, it's still possible, but they've thrown it away. Tottenham are playing Middlesbrough. You think Tottenham are going to win, so Tottenham could, go closer to Chelsea than Arsenal.
Yeah, well, at the end of this weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if United are on the same points as Arsenal, which is insane, like considering like just the way the teams are viewed and how the narrative has been. Like Man United have been considered out of it completely, but I mean, after this weekend, they may be right in the top 4.
Yeah, and like you said, all the other teams around them now are back to sort of, I guess, easy games in the sense of Tottenham, Liverpool, Man City, and Man United in up against Leicester, that you'd almost consider that an easy game now as well. So, Arsenal have really thrown it away. So, without turning this into an Arsenal podcast...
try not to do that.
Your personal Arsenal podcast...
Yeah, I had to rant like I'm sick of it.
You got it. I mean, look, it's disappointing, and it's disappointing for the league, I think.
It is, yeah. Let's end the podcast with this. Let's if you haven't got the Premier League table, load it up. And,
I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, have a look at the A-League table as well. Now, predict the top 4 in both leagues. There's 15 games left in the Premier League. There's 10 in the A-League. Start with the A-League. What's your top 4 positions?
Oh, look, I mean, for me, the top 4, it's going to be Sydney FC, Melbourne Victory, Brisbane Roar, and I just feel that 4th one is up for grabs. But I'm going to stick with the top 4 as is.
Yeah, well,
I reckon.
Okay.
Yeah. It's 4th is up for grabs, but I can't see any of the teams doing it in 10 games to make up 6 points. Nah, I don't think so.
I'm going to go with Sydney, Victory, Brisbane, Newcastle, Melbourne City, Perth Glory. That's my order.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look...
So I think Melbourne City will miss out in the top 4.
Wow. Okay. Well, timestamp this moment in the podcast then. We'll come back to it. I'll give it a chance, but I'm going to stick with the original top 4.
Yeah, I wouldn't be... I think the next 3 games, Melbourne City have some big tests, and I think if you predict right and Victory win, then I think the reality is that they're going to really struggle.
Yeah. Let's
go to the Premier League. Obviously, I think Chelsea are going to be the key... lone figure for both of us, so let's ignore that, but try to predict this 2nd, 3rd and 4th, because I think that is very interesting.
Yeah, this could go anywhere at the moment.
So let's assume that Man City win and Man United win tonight. So that puts City up to 46. I'd stay in 5th, and United would go on 44.
44. I still like Liverpool.
You put them 2nd, you think?
I might put Liverpool 2nd. And possibly, I'm going to put Liverpool 2nd, and I'm going to put Arsenal 4th.
Okay.
And then the question is who's going to be 3rd.
Look how many teams miss out. Like Spurs, City, United in your case, yeah.
Well, and we've made mention of this, that the EPL is back to a top 6 now, I reckon.
It is.
But I'm going to say Chelsea, I might say Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Tottenham, United.
I actually think Arsenal are going to miss out on the top 4 for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yep.
I think it'll be Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, United, Arsenal 5th, Spurs 6th.
Oh, well, that's just the Arsenal fan in you.
Yeah, maybe.
Tottenham slipping to 6th. That's a big call. That's wishful thinking.
I think... Yeah.
This is not what you want it to be.
No,
this is what you think it will be.
This is what I think it will be. I think Arsenal are going to miss out, and I think it's going to be very tight. I think it'll be like goal difference or something like ridiculous. And I think United are going to slip in over Arsenal.
Wow. Yeah, look, I wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham stick in 2nd the whole time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. And people wrote them off last season as well, and they stayed strong all the way to the end. But I just like Liverpool. There's something about them this season that I like. I'm tipping them to pick up points, get into 2nd, City as well, I think just their quality might come good in that tail end of the season. Arsenal just fourth because they're always fourth, and then so I'm with you on that. I'm tipping Tottenham to slip out of the four.
Yeah.
Maybe just finish ahead of United. I just think as the season wears on, the quality of City might be enough for them to pick up a few more points.
I think City will scrape second, but every team will be like, I'd say 14 points behind Chelsea.
Yeah. I think Chelsea's a given. I just like Liverpool. They're just so attack minded. They might be able to claw their way up to second, but like you said, look at the ladder. It's a good season. It's a ripper
for Arsenal,
season.
It's the old hashtag race for fourth, and I'm depressed that it's happening. But I think the interesting thing about Liverpool is that they're defensively, like they brought in Matip on a free. He played last night, looked good, and then gave away the penalty. So I mean, that's Liverpool right there.
That's Liverpool.
They self-destruct kind of like Arsenal do, just against the bottom teams.
And more defensively, I think Liverpool look even more worrying defensively. Sometimes they just look shambolic. But going forward, when they're red hot, like they are just red hot. And I think against the bigger teams, they don't have the mental frailties that Arsenal do. And I think that, I don't know how many big games Liverpool have left, but, you saw that in their last game there, they picked up the draw. I don't think, Arsenal will get a draw against Chelsea. I think Arsenal will
have
lose
to play
Chelsea.
Spurs, Liverpool, and Chelsea all the way. So
yeah. I look, and that's the difference. I think Liverpool, Chelsea 1-1. I think Arsenal are going to lose to Chelsea, and that's the difference.
Yeah, it is.
100%
agree.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll come back to this in about 2 months, and we'll see who's correct. And hopefully I'm wrong in terms of the EPL. But once again, thanks for joining me, Adam.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. You can find us, obviously, on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, the main website, www.theaverageaustralian.com. And thanks for joining us once again. And until next week, bye-bye.
See ya.